Yeah. So, all right. On top of Chris Paul, we'll move on to the West. Chris Paul and the Suns beat the Clippers in six. So they're going to the West to the NBA Finals as well. Um, you know, uh, we already kind of brushed over it, but I'm gonna ask the same question. What are your thoughts on the series? And I guess both, really, I guess the Suns going forward because I feel like the Clippers just get back Kawhi, um, maybe add a piece or two, but really, how do you feel about the Suns in the after this series?
I think for both teams, this series was a win. I know the Clippers lost, but I think they put up a good enough fight to where you have to believe, which most people already thought that Kawhi would be going back, but you have to believe that if Kawhi was healthy, he obviously makes a big impact. And so the question rises, well, maybe they would have won if he was healthy. And so if that's the case, you got to think, why not just run it back, right? I mean, Serge Ibaka also didn't play. Like uh, Zubac got hurt like midway through the series, and he couldn't play the last two games, which forced them into going small ball, which let DeAndre Ayton do his thing. So I mean, if you're the Clippers, although you lost, you got to take this as a big win because a lot of your guys were hurt, and your team still put up a really good fight. And then also Paul George just had a fantastic playoff run. He stepped up big time in the absence of Kawhi. I think he was averaging like 30 points a game since Kawhi got hurt. So that has to instill confidence in both Paul George, your team, Kawhi, that they're good enough to run it back and hopefully make another run. For the Suns, once again, also a huge win because, like we said, there's a big offseason coming up where Chris Paul he needs to resign, and even if they lose this finals, I think that Chris Paul is going to probably return to the Suns unless they like crazy lowball him on the offer for money, which I don't expect them to do because this season has been a dream season for them. The last time they went to the finals was Charles Barkley, 1993, and they got beat by the Jordan Bulls, and they've never won a title. So this is the closest they've ever been. Um, because I mean, realistically, I think they're going to win this. I know that with the Charles Barkley team, I don't think anyone really expected them to stop the Bulls, who had just won two championships before that. So yeah, they might be the favorites going into this. Giannis, who knows about his status for the first game, maybe even the first two. I think by game three he probably comes back, but you never know.
Yeah.
So I think this is a prime opportunity for the Suns to at least steal a game. If Giannis does come back, then you still got a chance to go out there and win home court because maybe he's, hobbled, whatever. But yeah, I think the Suns, they're just riding an immense high right now that they just have this crazy self belief that they can beat anybody in the league. I mean, they beat the reigning champion Lakers, they beat the MVP with the Nuggets, they beat the team who specifically tanked to try and avoid the Lakers and did not want to get a certain seed. And so these were the matchups they wanted, and you went out and beat them, and now you got to beat Giannis, the guy who is the young up and coming guy who I think most people consider out of all the young players, if you include 26 and under, most people put him as the best because two MVPs, Defensive Player of the Year, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean it's a crazy run. Chris Paul getting his first finals. DeAndre Ayton, I think, is was second, third year in the league, and he's already in the finals. Monty Williams, a guy who's been a head coach in the league for a long time on a lot of different teams, finally found his spot. And then Devin Booker in his first playoff run, he's in the NBA Finals. So, I mean, you already know that I'm picking the Suns to win the finals. So,
Yeah.
I was impressed at the way that they were resilient because I think there was a point where in that game six, they could have easily allowed the Clippers to make a run and force a game seven. And at that point, I mean, the Clippers would have had an immense self belief because they've just forced seven without their best player. They got to think that they can go all the way. But the Suns stayed resilient, and Chris Paul, I mean, he just went off. He had 41 points in that
Hmm.
game six. Like he did not want to lose. So I was pretty impressed by both teams. And like I said, I think both teams came out of the series with a win in their own way.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree, obviously, but in regards to the Clippers, I mean, only thing I forgot, I just realized, I think Reggie Jackson's contract is up, and they had bought him out, so he's on a relatively cheap deal, and he had been a very key piece to this run. So I'm interested to see if what happens there. But obviously, next season they're gonna get number two back and Zubac back. And Ibaka back, which man, Ibaka's weird, man. Like I feel like okay, this is the end of Ibaka, and then he has like one solid stretch, and then it's like oh, and then so I don't know. I'm not gonna count him out, but yeah, but we saw as you kind of as you mentioned alluded to, Paul George had that big game, kind of lessen the stigma of pandemic P and such, and just put more respect on his name. Um, I guess the only loser I would say is Patrick Beverly. Like I don't know what that was, and he said it was for someone else. Like who was it for? Frank Kaminsky right there. He hadn't played all game. I don't know, Pat Bev. And that's obviously a chump move, but regardless, in regards to the Suns though, yeah, like you mentioned, just and like we've mentioned, just a team that's been playing their best basketball, and just at the top of their game. I mean, even this series showed Devin Booker struggled throughout the series, but especially Game 6, but Chris Paul stepped up. Campaign still playing solid. I know Sarge has played some big minutes as well. So, I mean this, yeah, I like what the Suns have been doing. Obviously, they're a very versatile team we've seen, and I like how they've really stuck with the big ball. I mean, I think like I mentioned before, Aiton's been a big reason why I think this run has gone on. They've really haven't because a bunch of teams, the Lakers tried it, and I know the Clippers tried to really small ball them, but they've had guys like Ayton and obviously their other defenders, Crowder and Bridges. They've been key in helping him, but Ayton has been played off the floor as a big, um, you know, in really any series. He's still been contributing with boards, inside finishing, and just solid defense. So, shout out to him because, like I said before, I didn't think he could take the step, and he has. He's actually exceeded any expectations I had. So, yeah, I mean, I really don't have much to say in regards to the Suns, other than, I mean, we've kind of hit it all there. And yeah, I think I've been interested to see the money Chris Paul gets because there's always a concern. He's getting up there in age. But yeah, I don't imagine the Suns will let him go. So